Good stuff.
So yeah, so when I saw your post about like connecting with the home and the energy in the home, I got really excited because I'm walking in and out of houses all day long.
Yeah.
And there's so much emphasis on like curating your house,
Right.
or like if you're going to list, like curating your home so that it sells, which you
Right.
have to do.
Right.
But there's also this element of energy when you walk into a house, whether it's my house, your house, a friend's house, and like I I remember like when I was younger, there was this neighbor and their house was actually like a complete disaster and not curated at all.
Yeah.
But like there was so much like the kids and the love and the energy and the laughter. It was like anytime you walked into this home that was like really unorganized and just kind of like chaotic, like
Yeah.
it felt so good. And when I'm walking in and out of houses that are on the market, sometimes like I'll walk in and I'll be like, ugh, like it could be in the perfect location. It could have like a good floor plan, like everything's there, but it has like a really bad energy. Or I
Yep.
could walk into a house and, it's not totally perfect, but it feels really good. So I
Right.
thought we could just kind of like talk about
Yeah.
just kind of, like the energy in a home, in a space, like whether it's like you want better energy for your home while you're in it right now, or like maybe tips to get it listed to
Yeah.
sell, or like if you're a buyer and you're walking into a house and
Right.
it's like, how do I, like maybe it has everything, but you're like, oh, it just didn't feel right. But can you
Yeah.
change that?
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
so that's
Yeah.
why I wanted to talk to you.
Yeah. These are such great topics. And it's interesting to me. I'm going to give a quick background. So I'm someone who has seen energy since I was a kid, and I think a lot of kids do see energy. I think it's why they get scared of like the boogeyman in a closet type of a thing, or like monsters under the bed. I don't think that's actually fake. I think it's real. But the one thing I want to preface all of this with is you and I and the people who are going to be listening to this, we each make decisions in our day to, we choose not to eat the fast food. We choose not to sit all day, right? Like we make good choices to be around good people and make good healthy decisions with our life. And I want people to know you can absolutely be empowered with energy too. You're not at the mercy of, wow, we really love this house, but the vibe is off. What you would want to actually ask yourself is the vibe off because it's not the right fit for us, or is the vibe off because we just need to kind of gently relax the energy, massage the energy a bit to get it to shift to where we need it to be. So I grew up, I my whole life from when I was a kid to through college. After college I was like, geez, I always choose the haunted house. I always choose the haunted house. And what I didn't realize is I was like, oh, I'm just perceiving energy. And then I was taking a Reiki class, and unbeknownst to me, we were going to be learning about how to do house clearings, and I was so scared. And we learned how to do house clearings, like I would say, just in a very challenging, negative way. It was cumbersome. It was heavy. It was look for the dark. Imagine your cleaning person who's here to help you take care of your home comes in and is like, I've got a microscope and a UV light, and I'm gonna find all the dirt. You'd be like, pardon me. Like,
Right. Chloe, no, leave it. Sorry, my dog.
oh, you're good. Life. So then when and this was because the practitioner, that was just their philosophy. And so what's interesting is good friends of mine had a Street of Dreams home that they just purchased. And the people that were there before were hardcore drug dealers, and they were into other stuff, nefarious things. And
And that leaves a very distinct energy. Like if you, yeah, that leaves a very distinct energy.
100%. So I phone a friend and I'm like, do you need to pause for a sec?
No, we're good.
So I phone a friend who also does house clearings, and I'm like nervous because I know that there's not great things happening in this home, and I want to make sure too, like when we talk about anything negative, there's a light at the end of this tunnel because truly when you think about like the universe, God, the divine, whatever your source is, it's there to help you put things in balance. So, like for me, when I go into a home now, so I go into the Street of Dreams home and they had really tall, like, I don't know, double floor, I don't know, 15, 20 foot floor ceilings. I don't know, I'm not good with heights, but we couldn't take the smoke detectors down. So the alarm starts going off because, again, we're using all these tools. And I went to my spirit guides, which anybody can do. And I was like, what do I do? And they showed me my inner light. And I was like, wait a minute, everyone has this, what it is like this human connection point to, again, who's your creator, who's your source. It could be love, it could be consciousness, it could be earth, it could be the divine, like all, I just call it whatever you want to, but we all have this connection to it. And it's that connection when we consciously work with it, the power of prayer or the power of setting goals or intentions. It's the same thing. And what I realized is before I could do the house clearing, I got the intuitive nudge to my friend. I said, will you please set intentions for your home? I was like, my guides are saying I can't start anything until you set intentions with the home. And that's how I knew, I was away from this negative practitioner and I was like, oh, wait, something's different here. So our homes carry vibrations based on so many different things. But what's really beautiful, Nancy, is homes are an active energy that can very swiftly be shifted. And truly, because they're earth energy, they know how to shift. They just need you and your power saying anyone right now can go to their heart, connect with their own home, just say hi, have gratitude for it. There's a gal, she says goodbye to her house whenever she's leaving town and like lets it know when she'll be back and stuff. You can truly say to your home, help keep me and my family safe. We want to have lots of laughter. We want great health. We want fabulous sex. We want financial prosperity. Help us make good decisions in that way. And the home will shift and hold. It will carry that vibration for you. Now, the other side to this is when we set that energy in motion, that those intentions in motion, we shift.
Oh, no
it's
bark.
it's not just our home, but you and I begin to say, whoa, like, we begin to feel shifts. Okay, so getting back to some of your questions, the other thing that's interesting to me is in the last couple of years, I haven't advertised too much that I do home and space clearings, and they really have been like coming out of the woodwork for a variety of reasons. And what's really amazing is you can actually connect with your home before you've visited it or bought it. So you can, like, with your partner or to yourself, think, I set the intention, we find the perfect home in the perfect way. I set the intention, Nancy's showings lead us to just the right home for us in divine timing. And when you go into these homes, yes, some will feel off, but again, you just want to ask yourself, is it because it's off for us, or is it because the energy just needs to shift? But I feel like we could do that.
So when I'm getting a home ready to list, actually, when it's empty,
Yeah,
I will like walk through the house and I will sage the entire home. I
beautiful.
actually will look up when like the next full moon is
Yeah,
and set like a prayer and intention for the house and the
right.
sale. As if we're like moving all of their stuff out and bringing in staging, like I intentionally use stagers that like love what they do, that are like so excited, like come into the house and they're like, oh yeah, like, oh, this space, that space. Because I feel like everything that you're doing is setting something in motion. And what I want to set in motion is like excitement and for like somebody to come into the house, but then feel grounded that like this is my home. Like I have to live here.
Yeah, those things add up and matter. Well, I would say more than you know. I think you know because you're doing them. But those things add up in a big, big way. Energy work is not the fairy godmother of Cinderella that waves a magic wand and shifts things and makes them happen. Energy work is you and I as a human constantly making choices.
Right.
So all of that adds up in such a beautiful, beautiful way. Big
And then
time.
sometimes people who come to me and they're like, we want to sell this house. We don't like this house. Like it's not. And then you go through this whole process and then you're under contract and they're like, wow, my house, I like my house all of a sudden. Like they all of it, and it's like, is that a shift in the energy? Are they just suddenly feeling nostalgic for the time and the memories, or is it like a combination of like all of that? I find it really interesting.
Well, it could be any reason, and typically the reasons people leave homes, there's been a major shift in their life. And what happens is you, as someone who is a conscious realtor, I would call it, is you breathe new, fresh life into that home and you're there to make it look and feel its best. If you're going in and saging, and sage is one of the most beautiful, sacred practices, but what we want to take a look at is the power is in you. You could blow cinnamon at the front door, you could use sage, you could use candles, and all of those things are incredibly powerful. But ultimately, you're the one who's saying, okay, I'm going to blow sage at the front, or I'm going to blow cinnamon at the front door, but you're the power. You're the one doing it. You are the one who's saging with this beautiful ancient tool, but you're the powerful one saying, but this sage is what we're creating now. Like, this is the experience we're giving this home. Does that
Right.
make sense?
Yeah, it does. I actually feel like I do that. Yeah.
Exactly. I think we're all natural energy workers in our own way. And my intention whenever I work with someone is how do we help bring out them continuing to do more of what they're here to do. Like, I don't teach anybody how to do things my way. And I love how you do that with your homes. And one of the other things that you can even do with your clients if you wanted to is you could even encourage them to say, does it feel good to release the home? Does it feel good to be moving forward? Can we think about what that's going to be like? And that's going to also kind of unhook them from their space and put them on that trajectory. I'm sure a lot of people naturally do that because they don't typically, wake up one morning and say, I'm going to sell my home. It's been a thoughtful process, but yeah.
Right. Well, that's a good cue because sometimes people will, I think, subconsciously kind of fight you along the way.
Yeah.
And they want to sell their house and they're intentional about that. But then there could be things where it's kind of like they just can't let go fully.
Right.
So just
Right.
being very like thoughtful and honest and just kind of taking it to like a higher level.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
even being honest with them and saying, hey, like, I mean, you would say this in your own way, but I think it's good too when we just acknowledge that there's friction in letting a house go, and you can still feel that friction and still let it go.
Yeah, change is hard, but change is also constant.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
think what's coming to mind too would be cool, would be like a house blessing, like having gratitude for the home, transitioning. Transitions aren't always easy, no matter how it goes, like gratitude and love for the space and experiences there.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're not loving your home,
Yeah.
so what are things that people could do right now to just kind of like change? Like maybe they like the overall house, but it's like a room or,
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah,
So, the first piece, that's such a great question. The first piece is to connect, with their own heart, or what I call the inner light. You could be your heart, could be whatever, but you kind of take a moment to go within and you set the intention that you can. I set the intention I connect with the energy of my home, and and say hello to it and give it love. Ask love to flow through you for your home. Start there. And the other thing is, as humans, we are so deeply wise. Like, we are intrinsically wise. I know that mainstream media would like us to believe differently, but we are. And when you go throughout your home, it is wise to let go of the things that you just don't, that make you feel a bit of like a tinge or make you feel a bit heavy. Maybe you keep something because it was your great grandmother's and you feel obligated to, or your best friend gave you something for your home, but you just don't know where to put it. You don't really love it, but you feel obligated for it because they gave it to you. Or, we purchase jewelry and it goes out of style and we're like, well, I should keep it. Really, it's the art of being so present and in flow with yourself that you can really allow yourself to release things. So it's really fascinating when I'm working on a home and clearing a home, how often there's such a density to certain, I've had people hire me just to clear an antique mirror. There was a painting I was working on for a client. It was an old painting and it had a lot of, I would say, challenging energy to it, but they felt obligated to keep it because of what the portrait was. And they'd wanted to kind of let it go. So I think about the things that you're just like, you know what, I just want to let these things go. It's time to move on. I'm always like, thank you. I have gratitude for it. Donate it. Someone's gonna appreciate it. But one of the things that spirit being the activation of source energy shared with me, because I wrote about this in my book, is everything, we know everything is an energy, right? E equals MC squared. And so everything you have in your home is giving off a frequency. And your energy is actually receiving information from that thing. So behind me, I've got a couple of crystals, a plant, a mirror, a dresser. And all of these things are sending out a frequency, and your physical being is processing that frequency. So imagine now you walk into a hoarder's home, and what happens? All of the things that are in there are like a choir coming at your energy field. Like you said, there's a chaotic home, but it felt like a lot of love too. And I totally get that, but that's the energy of good things. We want to make sure that we are not hanging on to things and it's keeping us from, this sounds pretty serious, but like from not living our truth. And the truth is that less can be more at certain times in our life. So don't be afraid to let go of those things. That would be the first two, is connect with your home through your heart, just express love and gratitude, and be brave to go through your home and truly get rid of the things that you just know no longer serve you and your family.
Yes. Okay. And then for somebody who's getting ready to like release their home.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is always so circumstantial because some people are like, we're going into our dream home. See ya. And other people are maybe, maybe they're widowed or they're empty nesters and they're a little bit sad or something. So taking a moment with your home and just having an appreciation for yourself with the space. It truly is that simple. One of the things that my guides have always said is energy work is simple, humans make it complicated. So just having that moment of gratitude, like, wow, I've had so much experience here and I know the unknown is uncertain, or maybe it's really exciting, or maybe it's not. And allow yourself to trust the process and say, I have gratitude for this space. I'm ready for the next chapter. I'm ready for you to welcome in the next people who are going to really love it. And I think saying that part too, like welcome in the next people that are really going to love it. One of my friends is getting ready to sell their house here in Kirkland, and they were saying how, and it's a very unique, custom built, beautiful home. And I was like, someone's going to show up and they're going to fall in love with it. Like they're going to say that, see this house and like, this is my home. And this person goes, well, I hope so. I don't know, blah, blah. And I said, look, I go, that's the energy you're putting out there. I said, you have a choice right now. I said, you can focus on skepticism and doubt, or you can focus on the fact that these are just facts. It's a fabulous home. And just know that somebody's going to come in and love it and pay at least asking price for it in this market right now. So, yeah, it's truly about like focus, attitude, mindset. Yeah.
And then what would you say for like buyers who are going into houses? Like I know you talked a little bit about affirmations, but just kind of like, are there things that they should look for? Like if you are in a home and like all things kind of are coming together, but you're not that in love with like the way that it feels, like, can you change that? Like, what would
Yes.
you say to that?
You know what's interesting is when it comes to those situations, look for the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
If you like, let's say you have your sights set on this, you know, let's say it's a buyer's market, you've got a lot of options, and you decide that this one over here, home A, is your dream home, and you're like, I want this one, I want this one, and random roadblocks start happening, right? I don't know, maybe the house is in a trust, and all of a sudden so and so comes in and says, well, wait a minute, this is going to take 30 days because I want to do da da da, and you're like, okay, I can wait 30 days, it's my dream home. But then this other home over here is kind of like, you know, chirping in your ear a little bit. And you're like, well, that's not my dream home. But as you visit it a couple more times, you're like, actually, I didn't realize the yard was so magical and actually kind of does feel good, but I want this one over here. You've got to follow the ease, first of all, follow the ease. But also, when you are thinking about your new home, it's not about perfection because there's beautiful teaching elements that come through. So when someone goes into a home and they're like, wow, this is 80% of what I want, the 20%, what's actually asking you to open up a little bit more and say, what could I learn about myself here? What's the lesson here? So with a home, you should walk in and it feel like, oh, you know what? I could see this. I could see this. You know, I after college, I walked into a rental in Queen Anne, gorgeous rental view, and it was dark, and the old renters had moved out. And it was kind of dingy, and they're like, oh, we're ripping out the carpet, new paint, new this. You know, the carpet was like dark orange or something. And but it felt good and I could see the vision, and it was easeful to sign up and sign the lease. So these are things for people to kind of think about. It's like you can say, I set the intention that when it's the right home, I just know. You can say that, and that will happen. This is the thing clients tell me. They go, I can't believe I don't do this every day because it works. And my clients are not like frou-frou, you know, all in spiritual healers. These are everyday people doing real life things, and they just apply these little nuances to their experiences. And if you really, really want like the dream yard or the dream patio or the master bath that just like lights you up every time you walk into it, you want to feel that, and you want to say, this is how I'm going to feel when I walk into X space.
Right. Yeah, I really like that. And accepting that you're not going to get 100% of what you want. There's going to be compromise
You
anytime.
know, and our the human experience is about compromise. The human
Right.
experience is about like, what are you creating? And I think when people move homes, they're actually in creation energy. They're saying, what do I
Right.
want to experience next? And the compromise, again, is there to teach us something.
Right.
So that's the cool part.
Yeah, but it's kind of contrary to kind of what we're being fed a lot of times, which is seeking perfection, getting 100% of what you want and having it like that all the time.
Exactly.
So it's a
You're,
good reminder.
you know, I was living in a gorgeous two-bedroom, two-bath condo, and they were going to sell it to me in 2027. And then circumstances came up and last year, and they said, Emily, we actually need to sell it now. And I wasn't in a position to buy. And I was like, well, I mean, I could have bought it, but it again, there's too much friction, right? I was like, things aren't lining up, things aren't happening. And I was like, well, I'll move into the unit I own, which is a one bedroom, one bath. And I was like, shoot, you know, I loved having my office and I loved having a guest bathroom and all these things. Nancy, the day I moved back in, my energy felt so calm. I got rid of an embarrassing amount of things in my life. I slept better than I ever have. I've been here almost a year now. I've slept better almost every single night than I did living in that place for 3 years combined. And there could be a variety of reasons for that, but there's something that led me back here that was a
Right.
compromise that And again, to your point of perfectionism, I actually had to deal, it was like a slight ego death. I was like, wait, I should be growing, expanding, manifesting. Why can't I manifest a better place? Why can't this, that? And instead, I was answering a greater call that was coming from within my soul. And it's brought me complete peace and happiness. So these things lead us there for a reason.
Right. And same like the friction, like when you're in negotiations, like sometimes it like if something isn't happening, if a deal isn't working out, like obviously you're going to try and you're going to work as hard as you can to get it under contract, then to get it to closing. But sometimes the friction is saying, and if
Yes.
you end up losing out, I have never sold my clients a house that they weren't absolutely in love with, that they didn't
Right.
know. And a lot of times they've lost a couple of deals along the way, whether
Right.
it's because they were outbid or
Right.
because the seller and my clients weren't able to come to terms on a but the energy, but not the energy, but I mean, kind of like the build up and the anxiety, because you're in it, you're like, you're writing the contract, you're doing it. But if it's not meant to be, it usually means for me, I know in the back of my head, well, there's something better out there for them. And they're actually not supposed to get this house. Now, I don't tell my clients that, but
Right.
sometimes that's what I'm thinking. And usually after it's all said and done, and when we're looking back on the whole process, like they'll say it. I agree with them. They're like, oh, but we're so happy we actually
Yeah.
didn't get that house. Could you
Yeah.
imagine if we had ended up there? We're so happy that, that fell through,
Yeah.
that we're here. And so
Yeah.
it's interesting because when you're in it, it's hard to imagine anything different
Yes.
because you're like, so like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
It is such a heart process.
Yeah.
You when you commit to a home, I mean, that is a really big deal.
It's a really big deal.
It's interesting because you bring up a really good point. There's two types of friction. So there's the friction that's like, okay, your higher self, the universe, God, whatever, is redirecting you.
Right.
And I always include our higher selves in this because you and I, anytime we need to start as a collective being a bit more in our power.
Right.
And then allow in the sparks of God, the divine, right? And we're going to co-create with it. So that's why I add in the higher self bit. We're talking very existential today. I am anyway for this house clearing topic, but I just can't not. So there's two types of friction. There's the redirection, and then the other piece is how bad do you really want it?
Well, and then sometimes when you force it, I've had people tell me these horror stories where they're forcing it and they're like, I'm miserable.
Yep.
I'm in this house and
Yep.
I hate it.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
you're
Totally.
no,
I mean, I'm sure people get into bidding wars just out of ego at times too. Uh,
totally.
yeah, so, but there will be times where the bidding will, it brings up this energy of kind of making a family or a person realize, wait, I actually really want this thing. I kind of thought I did before, but now I really do. Okay, now my energy's all in and I'm committed to this home and I can release myself from the previous home.
Right.
So it varies. Yeah. It varies. So when you negotiate, is it like what we see on TV where like you pick up the phone and you're like 2.2 million's our bottom, but it's not really your bottom, and then they come back and they're like 2195 or else. And you're
Well,
like, "Yo,
it's all about the temperature of the market, you know? So what kind of a market are we in currently? And then it's about drilling down on the neighborhood, looking at the comps.
yeah,
Then it's about how many days on market has that house been active?
right.
What's the activity? What's the interest in the house? And then it's cooperation with the other agent because we're both trying to get to a mutual agreement.
Right.
So my negotiation tactic is very much like I'm firm and I create boundaries. and I'm here to represent my client first and foremost, but I also want to cooperate with you, and I want your clients to also feel like they're getting what they want to a certain
Right.
degree as well. Like
Right.
I'm not, I'm not of, I'm not like a beat you up. I'm not very like overly dramatic or emotional. I just like to keep it like even keel. And then I think because if it's not working out and if there's so many things that are happening that's creating a friction, like to me, I'm kind of like, okay, something is maybe telling us that like this isn't good,
Hmm.
but I'm representing my clients. So if they want me to continue to push, obviously I'm going to continue to push.
Right.
But sometimes we'll have conversations on the side and it'll kind of be like, well, what is actually going on here? And you know, where are you now and how are you feeling now that all these things have transpired?
Right.
Other times it's like, no, we know, and this is what we want. So like, go get it, go be a
Yeah.
shark. And you know, I can do that too.
Yeah.
But I definitely like, I like to remain calm. I like to just work with people and I don't want to be agreeable, but I want everybody to be happy about the
Right.
outcome.
Right.
And I definitely want for my professional relationships, when they see my number eh, calling them on the phone, I want them to be like, I like working with her and
Right.
I want to pick up the phone and I want to talk to her.
Right.
So I think that that's really important too, because then, you know, if you are in a super competitive market and you do have a multiple offer situation, if you know that you're working with an agent that it is gonna cooperate with you, that responds timely, picks up their phone, responds to emails, doesn't give up, isn't like snaky, you know, in the background, like doing weird stuff,
Yeah.
you know, you're probably out of all of those other agents, you've got, you know, you're probably gonna get the deal done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because with I think it's really gonna highlight for us like the need for like you can never replace the human interaction, right? And AI won't be able to negotiate for us on homes. And it is so, you and I both know it's so different when you see a listing on your phone or on your laptop versus going in person.
You have to go. I
It's
mean,
night and day.
yeah.
And
I always tell my clients, I'm like, you have to get out there and get into everything.
Mm. And an agent knows a good agent knows what to look for with you, for
Right.
you. Like, I think people think, well, I know what the living room is, I know what the ensuite bath is. And it's like, no, no, no. They're going to look out for other things that you aren't used to seeing about a home that you
Oh,
need to keep an eye out
100%.
for. Yeah.
Yeah, the second I get out of the car, I'm like, I'm looking at the foundation,
Right.
settling cracks. I'm looking at the siding. I'm looking at the roof. I mean, I'm looking at the chimney. I'm looking at the
Right.
windows and the windowsills and where, you
Right.
know, if you've got an older home, like were the windows painted shut or
Right.
all
Are they single
kinds of
phase? Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
is there a weird smell in the basement?
Is there a weird smell anywhere?
Is there a weird smell anywhere?
I mean,
Yeah.
AI cannot tell you that.
Totally. And
Yeah.
even like you know, the difference between drywall, you know, I mean, your average person, your average home shopper that walks into a home, I mean, they don't know the difference between smooth and orange peel and all these things.
Right.
So
Right.
it's just kind of, and then, you know, being able to, it's just, you know, AI won't be able to do that. Yes, AI can, you know, go maybe read through a contract, you know,
Sure.
whatever. But I mean, even with that, like people need to be able to understand what they're putting their signature on. And I don't know if AI can really explain it
Hmm.
in the many different ways that, you know, I explain to my many different
Right.
personality types that I'm working with.
It's so interesting. There's certain things in my own business. I'm ready for AI to I'm like, hurry up. I need this feature. I need this feature, right? Because
Right.
and then at the same time, because part of what I do is I help intuitives build out and make a sustainable business. So 70 to 80% of intuitive or healing businesses fail because they just don't know how to generate consistent revenue. And there are certain aspects of AI that automate things on the back end for them, where I'm like, okay, you can run your business more automated so you can be doing what it is you're doing. And those are the parts that I wish would hurry up. However, I don't know, maybe it will, but it's like if AI doesn't have a soul, it can't tell us all of these energetic things.
Right.
It can't tell us, what's crazy? I don't want to freak anybody out. If anybody gets freaked out, don't. Just remember what I mentioned, which is like go back to your light, connect to your higher power, ask for clearing of your home, ask for grounding. It will work. But I was doing this space clearing because this gal got cheated on by her husband. And the kids were out of the home. They're like in college. And she goes, I just want you to, clear the bed, clear the this, clear that. I was like, great. And she had this walk-in closet that was pretty much packed full, as walk-in closets are. And there was this, and no, I hadn't walked into the closet yet. I was in the water closet. What do you call that? Like the bathroom,
Yeah, the
toilet,
bathroom.
toilet room within the
Yeah, the
bathroom.
water closet. You're right.
Sure. So I there is like, let's just call it, so I'm called to the water closet. And there's like let's just call it like some smudgy energy, okay? But I was like, oh, this is weird. It's like it's in kind of both rooms. It's on both sides. It's in the water closet side and on the closet side. I go, do you mind if I go into your closet? She goes, no. So I walk into her closet, Nancy. Again, walk-in closet, full. And there is one section of her closet that has nothing. There's nothing on the shelf, there's nothing hanging. It is nothing. There's nothing. Full closet except for this one space. And I go, well, that's interesting. And she goes, what? Because sometimes people want to know details and sometimes they don't. It just varies on what they want to know about the clearing. And I was like, well, I was like, there's an energy here we're gonna clear. And I go, but look how you didn't put anything from your closet on into the space. It's like, so when I say people are wise, we know. Like we know when, oh, we're just gonna steer clear of something, or oh, we're really
Oh, was
drawn.
that where her husband's clothes were?
Oh, no, no.
No.
That would make sense. Yeah, no. It wasn't that kind of a situation. Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. 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 So, yeah, it was very interesting. We
Well,
leave imprints too, because as humans, when we have repeat patterns, it's one of the hardest things as humans is to get out of our habit or bad habits, right? And part of the reason that is because imagine, I talk about like energy work is no different than compound interest. The more you do a little bit every day and it adds up over a lifetime. So imagine with a negative habit, it's adding up little by little. So when you are looking at clearing and starting a new habit, or you want to clear a home, we've got to like, and the thing about clearing a home is it's like cleaning your home. You do a deep clean once or twice a year, and then you pick up every day, and then you scrub the toilets every 2 weeks, or like whatever your thing is, right? Same goes with maintaining the vibration of your home, and you can truly there's a free download I'll send to you. It's like less than 7 minutes, and anybody can do it, and they can just kind of rejudge the energy of their home anytime they want to. So
I
yeah.
like that. I think that energy in the home is important. What would you say about a neighborhood?
That's so interesting. It's so interesting. So neighborhoods,
'Cause that's like a collective energy.
it is. Well, and you know what's interesting? It is a collective energy. It's a local collective energy. It is also a city collective energy. It is a state collective energy, or, region, where depending on where you live. But no, there's a lot of moving parts to that. So I live in Kirkland, and there's an area when I was working in Bellevue, but I owned a place in Linwood, and I was like, I can't do the commute anymore. So I was like, well, let me just drive around Kirkland and see where I'd want to rent or buy or whatever. And there's this one, it is like a 1 to 2 blocks area in the downtown vicinity of Kirkland that as soon as I drive into it, it's like I feel nauseous, I feel lightheaded, I'm like, something's off, I'm like, I'm woozy. And I was like, man, but these condos like sell for such a reasonable price. And then I started to notice that these condos had high turnover. So they had high turnover and they always were selling below market value. And I was like, okay, I was like, something's in the water up there because why would people keep doing this? What is it that we don't know? So you know, you can find your good pocket of energy, even if you have like sometimes house clearings, like easements will come up, like we do, we rearrange the energy for an easement, or we have to put a boundary up for a neighbor. And all of that's possible. You could even connect to the earth energy if you're someone who feels called to do that and just ask the earth energy to support you and say, I put up boundaries, that there's a respectful boundary between me and my neighbor. And then other times we have great neighbors. And, my parents they built, their neighbors built for them a little wooden martini bar that they painted that's on their fences so that the three neighbors can like come together and have a little happy hour. Isn't that great? So
Yeah.
everybody's neighbors are different. So it's just kind of fun to look at that experience as a little bit unique. I have neighbors in my building who I just adore and are like family, and then there's others where I'm like, I'm not going to engage with you because if I do, I don't know what's going to happen. So,
Right.
so it's like I don't know that anywhere's perfect. Things evolve. And my biggest suggestion would be you and we are not doing anything alone. We think we are, but we're not. So call in help. Call in help from your heart. I keep using your heart as an example because you and I are all everyone, every living thing is we're all conduits of energy. It's just a matter of how are we going to choose to use it? Do we want to use it for love? Do we want to use it for not love? So just even if you don't even know what you're doing, just bring more love through your heart. I think I want to talk to my husband or partner about moving, and we have such a good home now. I can't believe this, but like let's talk about moving and see what conversations come from that. Maybe we do move in a year because the kids will be good to change school districts, or like just kind of be open, like bring the love through, see what happens. If you love your home and you're going to stay for a long time, bedtime's the perfect time when it's a little bit more quiet to kind of just think about love with your home. It sounds cheesy, it works. I've had investors, hire me to do, like, they'll do their own house clearings. Like, okay, Emily, now before we move into this home, will you please do a clearing? And I'm like, sure. And then they go, wow, I actually feel really connected to it. I wasn't expecting that. And then they develop their own way of doing energy work with their home. Or they will flip a home and they want to make sure that the home's energy is ready for the right buyers at the right time. There's a home in Oregon that hadn't sold in forever, and they hired me, and there was a gal who had passed there and was really like kind of holding on to the energy. So I did the clearing. They took it off the market like a month later, put it back on the market about 8 months later, and it sold. And I also don't want to say like energy healing is the be all end all because I don't believe it is. I believe you and I and the collective, we are our minds, we are our body, we are emotions, and we're energy. And it's all intertwined. And
We
they're
had a house in Northeast Seattle and it had really bad energy.
really,
And I didn't know that you did this at the time or else I would have called you. But
yeah,
um like we had the energy cleared in the house. And
exactly.
it took but it took time. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not immediate. And
No.
then it's like you have the energy cleared and then I'm in there and I'm like trying to like continue to like cultivate and get some because people do, they walk in, it's like this fabulous house, but it's like you're just met with a brick wall.
100%.
And it's like,
100%.
and it didn't go anywhere. It was in a great location.
Yeah.
It was sited perfectly on the lot. It had an easy floor plan. It was
Yep.
updated. Like it was priced with energy to move because the person wanted to offload the house.
Yeah.
They had a bad breakup. That it was kind of like, all these things,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so there is something to be said about that.
There is. I couldn't agree more. And what's really cool is I think that as our collective becomes just more aware of ourselves, right? Just more conscious of everything being interconnected, what's happening and what's going to happen more is we're going to realize like the power is within ourselves. Like you already, and again, we're all already intrinsically doing this. You continued to like keep the momentum going with the home. You took multiple steps to it wasn't just the clearing of the house. It was other logical things you did that as a professional
Yeah,
work.
I was like bringing fresh cut flowers from my garden because I'm a big gardener.
Yeah.
And, I'm
Yeah.
like doing all these things to like opening up the windows on like a sunny spring day, bring
Yep.
in airflow, play
Yep.
good music. Like it was like everything. I put a lot into just trying to make it feel good.
And it works.
And
Like
it works.
yeah, and that's the beautiful part of it. Did the clear, I'm so curious, did the person clearing it say what was going on?
She was just like, there's a lot of stuff that's happened in this house.
Yeah, it's always layered, Nancy. It blows my freaking mind. Like I'll hold space for a home, and you and I as humans, we can really only like if you and I are gonna clean our home, we're like, okay, what like we think about the whole home, right? And we're like, where are we going first? What are we doing first? And when I do a house clearing, all of them are guided, and they always take me to wherever it needs to go first. And we'll like do a little layer here, a little layer there, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, wasn't expecting that. It's like, or I'm sure you go into your son's room and it's like, why did you leave half a sandwich here? It's just, it's life. So, yeah, the other thing is too, I I used to be so scared. I used to be really scared because I didn't know better about energy, right? I was like, I see a haunted movie and I'm like, oh, if a house is haunted, you're screwed. It's gonna murder you, right? And you and I and everybody, we walk around these energies all the time and we're just fine. So for anyone, hearing this and being like, oh gosh, I hope I don't have anything, challenging in my home, you're just fine. When we bring in the frequency of love consistently, right? Negative energies can't hold in that frequency and
Mhm.
will begin to dissipate. And how do we hold the frequency of love in our home? What you did. It wasn't just about the fresh flowers. You love gardening, you love those flowers. You had the intention to raise the frequency. There's all types of music out there. There's satanic music. You didn't choose that. You chose positive music, right?
Right.
So we just keep doing the things you love, and that will continue to shift and raise the vibration of your home. So
Totally.
yeah. And do it to your beds too. Like, this is another thing. Our relationships are constantly evolving, and you can like bless your bed. Bless it. We should all be blessing our beds, blessing them for good night's rest, blessing them to be healthy, blessing them for fabulous intimacy with yourself or your partner. Like, just keep blessing your bed too.
Yeah, I could bless my bed. I could use better sleep, that's for sure. Yeah.
Well, with 3 kids and running a business, you definitely have a lot on your plate, I can
Oh
imagine.
my God.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like this was, stimulating. I love it. I believe in energy. I think that it's helpful for people to hear stuff like this because it's one thing that you can do and it doesn't cost any money. It's
Right.
like minimal effort. And
Right.
like you were saying, like like just do it, every day, creating a new habit.
Yep.
And you can change what's around you. And it's
Absolutely.
not like you're, curating, you're doing, all the things that you might think or have been conditioned to think that you need to do to create a great space.
Exactly, exactly. And cultivate it how you want it to be too.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, it's powerful stuff. I'm excited for people to become even more aware that they can connect with their homes. I think that it's gonna, yes, things do take time. That's 100% true. And at the same time, you'll begin to notice instant shifts in your life. They're nuanced, but you'll begin to notice instant shifts. And just remember, you always have the guidance and support. You just need to go to your heart or your inner light and ask for it.
Right.
That's it.
I love it.
Yeah. This was so much fun. This is such a good
Yeah.
conversation. I could
Thank
chat
you.
about this stuff all the time.
I know. I love it.
I know. And I'd be curious too. So that house did finally sell.
Yeah, it sold. It took a little bit of time, but I mean, it sold. It just took a lot of work and a lot of being in it. Like I think I
Yeah.
saged it like 5 times.
Yeah.
And we
Wow.
called in the girl. And, I mean, we were just doing, but there was no reason. But it was,
Yeah.
I just feel like buyers would come in and they'd just be like, it feels like
Off.
people just were like, I just didn't feel connected to the house. Like I kept kind of hearing that as like a common theme. And I was like, wow. But like me, I felt it as the
Yeah.
listing agent. I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
there's this is a lot.
You're like walking in there with your silver and just making sure that you're protected too. You know, one of the interesting things when I do house or space clearings, because I've done them for high schools too, with permission, of course, but like they reached out to me for that work. So what's interesting is there's a timing too. Like I can't do I have to hold space, hold energetic space to see the best date to do the house clearing. So I don't look at the calendar and pick my own date. So as you continue with this too, like, for someone who maybe somebody hears this recording and they're like, okay, I need to do this right now. I need to do it right away. But maybe you don't. Maybe you actually do your own personal little mini house clearing or connection 3 days from now or 3 weeks from now. Trust in the timing. Like there's so much support. Um, yeah, and set intentions for your home. Because the reason I say set intentions is because your home, we're not just like removing old energy. What's the new energy coming in? Tell it. Tell it. This is the new energy I want. And let your home hoist that up for you.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%.
Cool. This was so much fun.
Yeah. Thank
Thanks
you.
for chatting. And I know you asked me for this interview, but I do want to say, where can people find you? I can't help it. I have to say that.
Well, they can find me by Googling me, Nancy Wallace Homes.
Perfect.
And a lot of times, if you Google like Nancy Wallace, Seattle or Bellevue, like all my Pilates stuff comes up first,
Yes.
but
Yes.
and regenerative mama and like all these things that I've done.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. That's
Okay.
how they can find me or on my Instagram, Nancy_Wallace_homes.
Perfect. And
Yeah.
anyone who's interested can find me at emilymarie.com.